let's do that. Okay. So,
well, thanks for having me, Melody.
Well, thank you for existing. You're really, really useful, I'm telling you. Just like so, explaining shortly how we met. We met actually when a few years ago when you were a yoga teacher for kids. It was a mom and child yoga course, and at that
practice is also what I do. Yeah.
Yes, you're doing so many things, like sign language and everything. But yeah, like we met at the yoga class, and then that's how I discovered you were a parenting coach, attachment parenting leader, and founder of Attachment Parenting Turkey. And I really liked the first session we did, the parenting session. Because I think being a mom, being a parent is something very difficult that we are not prepared to. It's not like you go to school for that. And so what I really liked with your approach was that you're not telling people what to do. That's not what I was looking for neither. I've realized that as a mom, as a parent, what we find ourselves into is that we can't think straight because of stress, because of lack of sleep, because of feeling overwhelmed. And so when you look at the situation from the outside and you have knowledge about the situation, you can help much better. When you're in it yourself, you can't see sometimes very obvious things. And that's where you helped me a lot. By taking the things out of my head that I already knew, putting them in the right order. And that's how I could use my own tools and So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think it's what we all need. You know, we're just trying to remain balanced, and it's such a new terrain for everybody. You know, parenting. It's not like, you know, you give birth to this new vulnerable person, and then suddenly you are just equipped with everything that you need, you know, to accompany them throughout their life, throughout the different stages of development. It just doesn't happen like that. So just making peace with that, even and having somebody to have like some kind of compassionate mirror effect is really what we all need. But you know, today we're going to talk about gentle parenting during rough times. I just want to say kudos to you for, you know, the video that you shared in your story before this. I mean, it's such you know, I think it's such an embodiment of, you know, we all are in the same boat, you know, multitasking and trying to juggle these responsibilities, and if you're homeschooling and working from home, and there's just so much going on. And it's something unique, I think. I mean, historically speaking, this is unprecedented. I mean, especially, at least in our lifetime, we haven't, you know, gone through anything like this. So I'm just gonna, I think, first say to parents around the world, but also in Turkey, expats, you know, moms and dads, I mean, you're doing your best. And the first thing that we all need is just to take a moment to see what we can control, because there's so many moving parts right now that we can't control, and it's just not gonna happen if you're feeling in this, you know, panic mode. So let's just start on the premise that, you know, when we talk about gentle parenting, compassionate parenting, it begins with the, you know, premise that we need to be gentle to ourselves first.
Yes. And that's what lots of us forget to do, I think. Because especially, for example, I used to be very perfectionist. When we met, I was trying to be the perfect mom. Well, now I've changed a lot. I've been asked last week by a mom who was like doing a work about motherhood, and she asked me, "What is for you the perfect mother?" And I replied, "Well, there is no such a thing. It doesn't exist. Nobody's perfect." So just like understanding that helped me so much being a mom.
Right. I mean, you're doing your best, and for every family, it's just so different. I was just, I work with families from around the world, from all walks of life, really, and it's just everybody's circumstances are so different. So it really changes your response to the coronavirus as well. So it's just not like we can find a cookie cutter answer to all our problems, but I think if we start with the, number one premise that it actually begins with you having your head above water, then you're going to be to your kids, you're going to be most helpful to your kids through this time. I think that's really a universal premise we can start on, but also knowing that there's actually, if we know a little bit about the human brain and how our nervous system works in times of chaos, I think we can self-regulate a little bit more easily too.
That's what I like about your approach as well, is that you use evidence-based information to support what you explain. I like to understand how the brain works. I like to understand what's behind how our body works, because that's personally thanks to that I can accept that information. Right. If I don't understand what's behind, I don't really believe in it. So I find it very useful to know how our brain works, but how children's brain work, because it really helps us to accept how they act and not think that, they're just like being naughty at the moment. It helps everybody to actually do their best, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot about our basic needs, for safety, for connection. I mean, think about us grown-ups. You're going to be grumpy if your needs aren't met, your needs for just using the bathroom on your own.
Big need.
Taking an unrushed shower and things like that. But our brain really hasn't changed much since our ancestors, interestingly enough. Just like the caveman facing a tiger, almost about to attack him, our brain still responds in one of three modes, fight, flight, or freeze. So you either fight with the tiger, you flee from the tiger, you run away, or you freeze, you drop dead. And imagine that problem doesn't exist. So right now, as we're going through this time of really a lot of unpredictable and probably a zillion moving parts and responsibilities, if any of our listeners right now, or those who are going to see the video later on, if they feel any of these symptoms, that means their nervous system, their brain is in battle mode.
Because COVID-19 is the tiger.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's an invisible tiger. So it's really tough. And, if your brain feels like there is a source of threat, and the threat is striking so close to your heart too. I mean, your family, your children maybe could be in danger. So your perceived
your
threat
parents.
is a real one, right? I mean, it's like it's the most sensitive area. So it strikes really close to your heart, and then your nervous system is in this battle mode. So what do? If you feel, you are having any of these symptoms, fight mode almost to the level of OCD, or flight, like you act like this problem doesn't exist almost to the point of carelessness, and almost maybe suppressing your emotions of fear. Oh, I'm doing okay, no, I'm not feeling scared, things like that. Or freeze, like you're feeling stuck, like you can't do anything, let alone help with your kids' homeschooling program. So if you're feeling any of these symptoms, that means your nervous system is like, there's a red siren going on in your brain. Battle, like you've seen a tiger. So what happens is, unless you deactivate the button in your brain to start to feel safe again, unthreatened, any strategy that you read about, even if it's coming from like the leading person in compassion or compassionate parenting, it's just not gonna work. Because what happens when we have the threat mode activated is we cannot function within reason. We snap. We are reactive. We're like reflexive. We can't just be mindful and, reflective and do the right things, even though we know those are the right things to do. And we've all been in those modes, right? When you feel threatened, you're like, you don't even want somebody to be around you. And now you're stuck at home and trying to juggle these responsibilities. But also there's, these little, your baby or your kid needing your attention and needing your connection as well. So I think one of the recent discoveries, one of the most important discoveries of recent decades has been regarding mirror neurons. So when you're feeling stressed, when your nervous system is down, what happens is the kids, they are born with some kind of survival programming. So they're able to feel what you feel. Their neurons, their brain cells can reflect your feelings, the primary caregiver's feelings. So they can, so they have this skill for empathy. But it's for their survival. They need to connect with the primary person to stay alive, basically, right?
Nature is well done.
So there's, exactly. So, for example, when they do still face experiments, the babies are just like, they're trying to get the parents to, connect, to show an emotion, because that's how they relate. So what this actually all tells us is, in a nutshell, again, if you're worried about things happening in your kids during this time, see it as a messenger. See, that's a symptom of a need. The need can be the kids' unmet need for connection, for several things, for play, for safety. But your child can very well be reflecting your, the parents' emotion. So that could be your unmet needs. And that's very important to just, pinpoint it like that.
And let's remind maybe everybody how a child or a baby is gonna act when they feel stressed like us, because they reflect our own emotions. So in a baby's case, it might be that the baby's gonna cry a lot. If the baby's breastfeeding, he's going to want to be on the breast a lot, being very fussy, wanting to be on the breast nurse all day long, like maybe like he's on a growth spurt. Toddlers, like older babies, might act the exact same way, and especially when all of a sudden the mom is at home while that mom was normally working outside the home. You've got two factors there. All of a sudden she's more there, or of course is more onto mom, but also because of the stress, wanting to connect with the mom more often and nurse like 100 times a day. Because I get that a lot of questions from moms, breastfeeding moms at the moment, moms who maybe were thinking of weaning their child off the breast, but then don't dare to do it because they prefer to keep breastfeeding in a situation with corona. But that's how the child or the baby is going to act when he's stressed because of our feelings, of their own feelings, but they will be onto us, very clingy, like constantly demanding.
Yeah. So always, look at, in the past, we saw the behavior as the problem, but the behavior is not the problem. And, you and I talk about this all the time. It's a symptom. It's a messenger. If you feel your needs are being met, you're having, like better feelings, better in, just but if you're having, if your needs aren't met, then you're going to have these like more sticky feelings, and you don't know what to do with them, depending on what kind of a parent, history you have with your own primary caregiver. Oftentimes, we've our generation usually comes from a more traditional, way of parenting.
Yeah, definitely.
Traditional modes of discipline. So it wasn't really favorable to show emotion, to act out. You would be a little naughty and whatnot.
It was forbidden.
So we didn't really know what to do with our emotions. So gentle parenting, when I said it begins on the premise that you need to be gentle to yourself, which is basically the main tenet of self-compassion. Basically, that inner voice pointing fingers at you for, criticizing you. You aren't, a good enough mom. See, you failed again. You can't do this and that. No. We're just, gonna, if we need to have the nervous system to deactivate that battle mode, what we are gonna do is we're gonna focus on boosting our resilience, right? So that we can actually have our inner resources working. So Daniel Siegel, the author of Whole Brain Child and many other books, he's leading researcher, American researcher in neurobiology, and he works on neuroplasticity and all of that. So basically, our brain, our system, being able to adapt to challenging scenarios and how we can regulate our emotions. He's he uses this phrase that I love. I use it in my support groups all the time. He says about difficult emotions and difficult circumstances, for your system to self-regulate, he says, name it to tame it. You're going to name the
name what you see,
feeling or the challenging circumstances to tame its wild, overwhelmingly challenging hold on your system. And in the past, it was believed that, and still traditionally, people think, if I voice my feeling, maybe I'm gonna magnify it, or if I voice my kid's feeling, I'm gonna magnify it, and he's not gonna stop crying. No, the brain, the system calms down if it hears that the feeling is accepted. If it's put in wording, if you name it, it's just so much easier to calm down the system, physiologically speaking.
Yeah. So can you give an example, for example, like a practical example with a toddler, for example?
So before the toddler, it's for the parent to self-regulate. That's step number one. So unless you self-regulate, whatever you say, even though you say that you use the right words, it's not going to be conveyed, transferred like that. So it's not what you say, but how you carry yourself and then how you say it. So before the toddler, like if you as a parent are feeling scared, lonely, vulnerable, just to be able to make peace with those feelings within yourself is step number one. I'm feeling really scared right now.
Or maybe realize yourself in which category you are at first, if like you're froze, if you flee, or if you fought in this situation.
Usually I try to refrain from analysis on the field, because the more you start analyzing and labeling, the more, the harder it is to be mindful, because now you start labeling it as well. But you can name the feelings all you want. I mean, that's what we, how we can reach that button. So in a peaceful warrior kind of sense, you name your feeling, whatever it is.
So you say, okay, I feel angry right now.
I feel so mad. I just can't stand it.
If you say it to yourself, you don't have to say it to someone particularly.
No. Yeah. But I mean, it's better to connect and, maybe FaceTime with a friend or your partner. But, you don't need anybody. Just saying it to yourself and accepting it. And the brain is gonna, help your system calm down eventually. And then, because to be able to say it also means you accept it. Yeah. That's why the system calms down.
I do that sometimes, like in the shower. Let's say I'm super angry, and then I feel that anger is starting to damage my stomach, or I just feel it there.
Sensations,
yeah. So I go, like when I'm in the shower, for example, and I'm gonna say I'm so angry. Why am I so angry? And I talk to myself, or just with my inner voice, but I say it, and then I do some yoga exercise, or just like, you know, the lion, what is it, the lion breath, like like this. I try to get it out of my body, and it really does help me.
Right. And water too. I mean, that's a great, I think, soothing, self-soothing strategy. But it's very careful to not turn this into a kind of a self-ruminating cycle. You know, we need to be careful about that, because
get it out.
Just get it out of your system, basically, so that you can feel lighter here. And
it does work in my case.
I feel so mad, but you know, just saying it to somebody too, like your partner, would help a lot. And step number 2 to boost your resilience as a parent would be to make peace with what it is that you cannot control. That's very important, because, you know, we can't control the virus. Obviously, we can't control the stock market. We can't control, that, the flights are off for the time being, and a lot of expat parents, they can't reach their families and whatnot. We can't control any of that. So first make peace with that, accept it, say it, but what is it that you can control? So that's how, resilience gets to kind of just fill up your inner resources, and then your system calms down. Unless your system calms down on the emotional level, whatever technique that I tell you about, it's just not going to work, because you can't reach the cognitive, the executive side of your brain, which is basically in charge of reasonable behavior and logic.
So if you feel overwhelmed because you're mad, or you're sad, or you're scared, and you're trying at that very moment to homeschool, to do a lesson with your child next to you, it's pointless.
Right. It is. The thing is, like I said, it's such an unprecedented time we're going through, that the other, maybe more practical strategy as we're all navigating these, multiple responsibilities, is to pick your battle.
Pick your battle.
That's my mantra. You're gonna have to pick your battle. It's not what perfectionist likes to hear. I'm a perfectionist in kind of a rehabilitated perfectionist myself.
I like
you were talking about gentle parenting. I was supposed to be the most gentle. It just doesn't work like that. You have to have your inner balance, and you have to make peace with the fact that you can be off balance at times. That's what being a human really entails.
That I felt it very clearly 2 days ago. So at the beginning, when we started this whole, kids are not going to have school for 3 weeks, I was so mad. I was like, what? No! It's like impossible. Then after I said that I was mad to my husband, to myself. I calmed down. I accepted the situation. And then I entered in, we're going to do homeschool. Actually, it's quite nice, because this way I have more control on what he sees, he learns. So all of a sudden I was like in a super good mood of like, let's do homeschooling. It's going to be fun. So every day we're doing like 3 pages of what the teacher gives us to do, because Jazz is at a public school, so he doesn't have lessons online with his teacher. So we're doing those 3 pages, and then on top of that, I add some stuff of myself, lots of English, but like fun. So I try to find lots of fun apps. Obviously, there's going to be more screen time. So the parent in me that says only 2 hours of screen time a day at this age, of course, that flies out of the window. But I found many nice ways to do it, and I was doing fine. And some days were harder, some days were easier, but I was doing fine. Why? Because I was still looking after myself. I was doing yoga every day, which I needed, and I even did a lot of some painting. I felt like I need to do something to, get the irritation out of my body. And then I started painting, and it was really good for me. And then with my husband, we watched a series in the evening, like a comedy, and it made me laugh every evening. So we were doing fine. And then my former perfectionist in me just took over the thing, or like any mom or dad who's doing well at first. Well, the homeschooling took too much space. Then because of that, and my work, because I still do online counseling in the afternoon, because of that, I didn't get time to do the yoga. So the yoga flew out of the window 3 times in a row. Then because of that, I didn't have any paint left, so I didn't paint. And because of that, I became a stress ball. And then instead of focusing when I was doing homeschooling with Jazz, being next to him, what I was doing is trying to do stuff on my computer at the same time, which then he understood I wasn't focused. Then he started acting out.
Right.
And then we started shouting at each other. Yeah. And then I realized what was happening. And I thought, okay, maybe instead of doing 4 hours of homeschooling a day, we'll do 3. Maybe we'll do a longer break instead of small breaks. And at the moment, because I'm angry, let's not do. Like, today is not going to have school anymore. It's going to be fine. But today I'm going to plan yoga. And since I've done that, I managed to calm down because I've looked after myself again. And now everybody is happier again.
Yeah. And you adapt, right? I mean, you adapt to changing needs. See, that's what we mean. And you know, we need to synchronize. You need to be in sync. And sometimes you can lose connection, which is fine. You know, we talk about attachment all the time. It's a human need to feel connected, to feel seen, to feel loved, regardless of what they do, how much homework they do. You know, it's just something else. It's about their core.
The bucket that has to be filled, that you were always saying.
Right, exactly. And so it's really important to, you know, when we're going through exceptional circumstances, to be able to adapt. But the thing is, you know, neuroplasticity shows us that, you know, our experience has shown that to us over and over, that we are very resilient beings, humans, and we're able to adapt too. So I think it's picking and choosing your changing priorities daily, and having maybe reachable daily goals. You know, if say, and then multitasking. You know that we all need to do that sometimes, but if you can, even looking at the phone when you're with your kids is actually multitasking. Cognitively speaking, so it's just gonna make you snap. If your kid is trying to show you a picture they made, you know, you can snap, and you know, you don't really like that sour feeling you have regret. So one maybe practical strategy would be to try and minimize the expectations from your day, because this is like war times, really. For your system, it definitely is, for your nervous system. Try to look for ways of synchronizing. Okay, if you're losing connection, if you're feeling really bottled up, you know, see that and make peace with that. That's okay. You know, you can be a gentle parent, and see, that's the thing. That's like the elephant in the room. You know, gentle parenting families that I cross paths with, one of the biggest challenges for them is to make peace with their kids' tough emotions, but also their own tough emotions, because they feel like, oh, you know, I'm not supposed to feel frustrated, or I'm supposed to be this crystal clear, you know, saintly, patient.
No, that's not what gentle parenting is, right?
Parent all the time. There is no such thing. I mean, it's about being a human. You know, all the feelings on the spectrum, you're entitled to them. Okay, let's just have that as a premise as well. I think it's liberating to know that you can feel like you need to have some kind of solitude too. You know, you just need to be able to have a shower that's not rushed, and those are very basic needs. So the less you meet them, the more, you know, just reactive you're gonna get, and burnout is just such a natural outcome of this. So I think we're being too tough on ourselves, and especially during rough times, I think it's really important to just remember that there's no way your kid is gonna not mirror that. Physiologically, he is programmed to mirror your feelings and the way you carry yourself. So it's so much beyond what is it that I need to do so that my kid is gonna behave? It's really so much deeper than
definitely that. Well, I think what I realized that works well for me is to keep it simple, but write down every week. That's like an advice that my mom gave to me, and I'm so grateful she did. She said, get yourself an agenda, because like if a CEO
like
needs an agenda, you definitely need one as well. A planner,
right? Yes.
So a planner, but not any planner, because of course I was using my planner on my phone, where you see one day at a time. But she said, no, get a planner like this, where you see the whole week on 2 pages.
Yes.
And what I do, because she said, if you write these down in your planner, you're gonna do them. So the idea here, and I put that in my book, in the English version of my book, about weaning, which I will talk about later, is that I prepare my week and I write down all the things I need to do for myself as me time to feel good. And I plan them.
That is so great. I keep saying that, I keep recommending that to all my clients, and all the families that reach out to me, is you need to think about it as like your kid's doctor's appointment. Unless you put it, you personally follow up with that need, it's not going to be met.
No, and if you don't write it down, it's flying out of the window.
Exactly, because you don't see, that's the thing. Probably you haven't had your needs as number one priority growing up. So it's more about give and meet other people's needs, and especially as a mom, it's such a
and there is the guilt feeling as well. Like many moms believe that they're gonna be bad moms if they have me time, and all they say is just not possible.
You have to,
and it is possible.
To parents, it's just interesting. Like for example, a family comes to me, says, my kid is having temper tantrums, can you help us with positive discipline? Yes, I can, but step number one and exercise number one is to take a moment to self-regulate as parents. So they have
it doesn't work otherwise,
whatnot schedules. There's no other way to go around this. Physiologically speaking, the kids can't. The other thing is, now there is so much going on around them. If you have the news on, for example, the TV on, it's I definitely do not recommend turning on the TV, turning on the news when especially little children are around.
Or listen to it with earphones.
Good. I mean, it's something, anything that's geared toward, an adult audience, no, because it's just,
it's very scary.
The way they perceive things, they make sense of things can be drastically different from how you, get the news. And even we feel triggered, right? With the news. I guess how they would, especially with school-age children, I want to point out, regarding news and regarding this, our conversations around them, something also important is to know that, there are kind of, so first, when they're little, babies, toddlers, it's more their egocentric period. So everything is revolving around them. So when something bad happens, like, for example, a family divorce or somebody passing, they can see that as, they can feel very guilty.
Yeah, they think it's their fault. Yeah.
They could think it's their fault. And when we're talking more like kindergarten and up, school-age kids, all the way into teenage years, maybe. So it's more, so they're starting to realize that other people exist and they have feelings and needs. And now they can still feel guilty, but they can start to worry about, say, family members passing. And, they can worry about somebody getting sick because of the virus. So it's very important to be cautious, of course. But how we, talk about the stuff around them could really trigger them or help them, learn coping strategies from you. Because, it's okay and it's very helpful to talk, developmentally appropriate in developmentally appropriate ways with them. But it's we have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Because,
so practically, if we want to watch the news, better watch it on either just listen to it and not watch it, and with earphones so that they don't hear. And then also, if we want to tell them about it, we can use some really good tools that have been circulating on WhatsApp or online on how to talk about COVID-19 to kids. I read it. I asked Jazz to read it, and he was asking the child, how do you feel when you hear about coronavirus? And he said sad and worried.
That's great that you're able to highlight those.
Yes. So I think that can be like a good tool to use.
Yeah.
And then also about the agenda, like the planner idea I was talking about, how we should all plan our own needs in the planner. Maybe also write down our kids' needs. For example, in Jazz's case, Jazz is a very active child. He needs a lot of support. He needs to jump around. So unfortunately, it's not the kind of kid, like, for example, his cousin, Mia, she loves like painting and drawing and doing slime and doing lots of things like that. And for her, of course, it's difficult to stay inside the house at the moment, but she still managed to entertain herself with those things that she loves doing. Jazz, he just becomes a lion in a cage. So I had to find something, for example, in the past weeks where the weather was horrible. I had to find a way for him to get this energy out. So if I think about what Jazz needs, he needs activity.
Yes.
He needs connection, of course, like every child. But for example, instead of him playing downstairs, we found this app called Just Dance.
Oh, yeah.
Where you dance the moves like he loves it. It's a really good cardio exercise because when my husband and I are doing just one song, we're like out of breath, and he does it for like an hour. So that was like a really good way to respond to his needs.
Right.
And lately I've even allowed him to do it in a break when we're doing school in the morning. So I had said no screen, like not Just Dance in the morning. You can do that in your playtime. Now I've changed my mind. I said, let's try to do it during school, because in between two homework, he can do a Just Dance, like get his heart pumped up and doing some cardio, and then he's more focused afterwards.
I think that's great. I mean, it's just, I believe you that Jazz needs more of that, but it's actually for every child. They just need to move that body, and again, the more it's the same for us. The more you move it, there's serotonin and all of that, so you start feeling better. If we can have them if we can find creative ways to have them move, even if it's just going up and down the couch. Some definitely connection, if you can do that together. And connection, we don't mean just doing some kind of Pinterest project.
Doesn't really work.
It doesn't. And by the way, I personally am just not a
I love it,
person.
But he doesn't.
I'm not a craftsy person. But by connection, we're talking about the ways in which the kids really feel connected. So you don't have to say much, but if you play with them, that's their language. So when you play with them, child-led play, you don't force things onto them, but if you're not feeling dead bored, do that. If you have eye contact during play, look them in the face. If you're at their level on the floor, even better. If your child doesn't have any sensory sensitivities to touch, if they're okay, find games where there's like some gentle roughhousing,
I was going to give this example for the dads as well, because the dads love to play that usually. My husband, for example, he really loves UFC, which is ultimate fighting, which is like really rough fighting. But so he watches that. So obviously Jazz sometimes watches it as well, and they like playing UFC on the bed. So they get like they dress like the fighters. Jazz is like in his boxer short. Let's do UFC. and they fight on the bed, and it's a really good connection for them. And then sometimes he calls me to help. And this like rough play, even if it's only 5-10 minutes, it's very often when we do it, we see that the whole day goes better. Or if you do it in the evening, it gets the whole stress of the day out of
the tension. It's the compression too, you know, gentle compression, like a sandwich press, you know, in therapy, you know, in pediatric physical therapy, they use that. So he can pretend to have like a sandwich. You know, you can be one side of the bun, you know, he can be cheese, you know, or
like you make like a roll or like a
just, in a blanket.
A crepe
so there's many ways a lot of tools like this that we can kind of integrate. Doesn't take much time, doesn't take much effort. So things like this, but also playing like for example hide and seek or tag or catch, like just a gentle maybe version of that, depending on how much space you have inside. But you know, when you catch them or when you tag, like just a hug, you know, like a bear hug, or you know, just to let them feel it, and their system is gonna let down and feel safe. That happens to you too, by the way.
Yes, true. And maybe also start the day like that. We sometimes do that. We start the day with like getting all together in bed and cuddling up. And even if it's only a minute, it actually makes a lot of difference. And now lately we also have a baby dog. And so that's also really nice to play together with the dog. Jazz likes it as well. Or just like stroking a cat or a dog is actually very helpful in
it helps
regulating
them
emotions.
A lot. And also giving him, like, probably he has some responsibilities about the pup, right? So like slight. So it's a good way to kind of let them in on that front as well. So think about this. We can't control a lot of what's going on. Imagine how your kid feels, okay? Like, they don't know much about the external world. They know that there is scary stuff going on right now. That's why we're stuck at home. They may not make too much sense of it. But imagine how their life is. Like, we oftentimes grown-ups decide, you know, on pretty much everything. So when they have these free play times or child-led play, you know, let them decide what character they want to be or what they want to play. Anything that doesn't involve a screen, you know, is up for grabs. So anything. And this is really good to help parents, you know, self-regulate too. Sometimes I get the question, how do I know that I'm connecting with my kids, or I'm in this, especially for, you know, people living in big cities and working, and you know, I get this question a lot. So they ask me, how do I know that I'm being mindful? You know, it's the kind of question that we get from, you know, that linear thinking, which, you know, the two of also shared at some point in the past. But it's all about being circular, first of all. You know, it's not a linear thing, parenting. The other thing is, I actually found a very practical way to check if you are in the moment. So if you're playing with your toddler or your child, whatever, if you're with a person that's of value to you and you're at their level, and if you look them in the face, if you can see your own reflection in their eyes, that means you are in that given moment, because you're not worrying about how much sleep they had, like what to cook that day, or if your husband or wife has called you or helped you on this, how much work you've done. So none of that anxiety or that inner chatter noise is interfering with that moment. If you can actually see your reflection. I recommend just give the people who, you know, watch this video later to just do a test run on that. And it's amazing to be in the moment like that, because suddenly you realize that you don't really have to do much.
No, it doesn't have to last long neither.
Exactly. But you know that you can be there. See, that's the thing. You know that feeling. And that's so much so much stronger than trying to function parent run by our anxieties. Instead you are kind of run with this inner drive, which is so much healthier.
I think that why people ask these questions as well is that when you hear about mindfulness or about gratitude, for example, at first, it might sound a bit like something you don't really know what it means.
Right.
Or, for example, I remember like gratitude, like, think of 5 things you're grateful for in the beginning. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm grateful. I have a house. I don't live in the street. I had food today. And then every day I was coming up with the same list of things, which was really boring. Right. Then by doing this exercise a bit more, I understood, no, that's not it. Yeah. It's about finding small things that made you happy that day. Oh, the coffee I had this morning was really nice. Or I had a chat with my friend Bettina for 10 minutes the other day. It was really nice.
Oh, and then
I did. And then I'm teaching Jazz, trying to teach him about this gratitude thing. And I can see that he's in the same frame of mind at first as well, because he was like, it's Big Life Journal that does that. It's really nice.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, I love Big Life Journal. They have free printables. They also have like printables that you can buy. I bought those. And you've got like a friendship challenge, a gratitude challenge, a kindness challenge, all these things for that. So I integrate that in our homework every day. But yesterday we did the gratitude challenge, and Jazz was like, so he had things to help him, like, for example, a color you're grateful for, a person you're grateful for. And he was like, yeah, for the person, I'm going to put Hassan in Ömer, but it doesn't mean that I don't love you, okay? I said, but that's the whole point of the exercise. Like, well done. Of course you love me. And another day you may say, I'm grateful for having my mom. But today, what you just feel is like, oh, I'm so grateful I have my friends Hassan and Ömer. And so he understood the exercise. And I think with mindfulness, it's the same thing. It's, how do you understand? Well, by doing it a bit every day, and after it's going to become natural.
Right.
And how to just be in the moment. Maybe think of, what do I smell? What do I see? What do I hear?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Being present with your senses, Almost, I call that anchoring, just how you anchor in the moment by being in touch with your senses. Yeah. Sometimes when I work with parents, I'd say, let's take a breath, and then can you tell me what you hear? Tell me 3 things that you hear right now. Because to be able to actually focus on that sense, then again, you have to put your anxiety on hold, or your inner chit chat.
Yeah.
Or what you smell. Smell, it's very interesting. In your brain, it's the same area where your feelings are kind of processed. So it happens to me all the time. When I get a certain smell, suddenly, I go back like 30
a memory. Oh,
and
yes.
That memory, that scene, it's just like yesterday, or just happened a minute ago. It's so interesting how the brain, stores this kind of stuff. Our brain responds to senses and feelings, and for it to function in a healthy way, that's very important to make sure where our thoughts are. So that gratitude exercise that you did, it's something great to do with our kids. So I'm really glad you involved Jazz in that.
Yeah.
They need practice. Need practice. And it's just like building up muscle, building up these new synaptic connections. It happens. But I get this question all the time, and I say I'm with you on this. It's so much easier to remain peaceful when it is peaceful around us.
Of course, the moment it doesn't go well, you forget about everything you've learned.
Exactly. And it is what we're talking about when we're talking about mindful parenting or gentle parenting, is really to be able to maintain your inner peace. Using your inner resources, boosting your inner resources, knowing about how your brain works and your neurobiology, but so that you can actually keep keep breathing, basically, when things are not predictable around you, when things are looking chaotic around you. I always say it's so easy to just go on top of a mountain for a retreat and, do your yoga. I think I give you kudos for attempting to do yoga even on those 2-3 days during a social distancing time.
I must say that the day I started yoga again, I did it with yoga in my earphones, just playing simply piano on the piano. So I had the sound of the piano and the tablets, and my husband listening to the news in the kitchen. So it was but then at other times I managed to find some time, and even if it's 10 minutes when the kids are in bed. I did that a few years ago with yoga with Adrienne. There are free videos on YouTube. I love her. She really helped me, and she'll be so useful for so many parents, I think, so many moms. It's more a mom thing, but give you suicide for that particular. So like that, for example, because I've got a friend in Belgium, and she is a single mom with a 3-year-old, and she says I can't have me time. Right. So she doesn't understand how she can actually take it, and I totally understand that she doesn't understand it, because I was like that as well. And I get a lot of moms asking me, but I don't have me time. I can't. I'm with a baby or a toddler, and I'm all on my own all day. Yes, of course, but I did find ways to do it. So for example, you go in the shower. You're gonna have a shower every day, generally anyway. Well, in my case, for example, instead of taking the normal shower with the lights on and the door open, I take a shower with a closed door and turn the lights off and put a candle.
I love that.
It's just spa in your own house for 10 minutes.
My older son he asked for that from me the other day. He says, can you turn off the lights, Mom?
It's so nice.
Nice to hear that. I mean, that's the need, and you know that, right?
Yeah, and at the same time, it's 2-in-1, because what you're doing is you're preparing yourself to go to bed, or your child, by getting his melatonin, his sleep hormone, to rise. So Jazz normally doesn't like it because he's a bit afraid of the dark. But last time he said, "Oh no, I don't want you to put the candle." I said, "Yeah, but I'm gonna have a shower with you." So he didn't mind that day because we were together, and he was like, "Actually, it's quite nice." I said, "But I told you, I told you it's nice." And he gets prepared to go to bed. It's really nice. And then, so another thing I found for like when you think you don't have any time is to write it down in your planner. By the way, this planner is brilliant for the moms in Turkey. It's Make, Inspire, Create. I'll post it in the comments later. It's to write down your own needs, and those needs are not big needs. So basically what I write down generally is, for example, this week I would like to Skype with a friend, or WhatsApp video with a friend, just for 10 minutes even. I would like to take a shower with candles, but I try to do every day. I'm gonna do some yoga, even if it's 10 minutes yoga with Adrienne at bedtime. I'm gonna read in bed, even if it's 2 pages before turning the light off. And then for moms, for example, who are breastfeeding or pumping, because I know that a lot of them are gonna watch this video later on. For example, the pumping mom finds that she loses her time pumping. That while she's pumping, she's thinking of all the things that she should be doing right now, and that she could be doing if she didn't have to pump. So I found a really good thing for that is to actually do creative visualization and gratitude while pumping. So a mom that has to pump, let's say if she has to pump 8 times a day, because there are lots of moms who have to do that when they struggle with breastfeeding in the beginning. Well, every time she pumps, she's going to do a different activity. So, for example, at first, gratitude list. Think of 5 things that made you happy today or yesterday. While you're doing this, you're training your brain to focus on that. And you're making more milk at the same time. Your milk comes out quicker. Next time, you're going to do a creative visualization, for example, on, okay, while I'm pumping, I'm going to think about what is our life going to look like when my baby will be a year old? And then you imagine, oh yeah, he's still breastfeeding. Oh, he's very funny at the moment. He breastfeeds sitting down and he opens one breast, and when he's finished with that one, he takes the other one, and he's all chubby thanks to my breast milk. And we're doing his birthday party, and everybody's smiley. And with my husband, we have a really good relationship. We communicate. We got so much better at communicating. And you imagine it in your head, but like if you were watching a screen at the cinema,
like you visualize, yeah,
you imagine it in bed. And if you want to imagine that you live in Thailand, then you imagine you live in Thailand. There are no restrictions, you know, because actually your brain is taking you where you want to go. And that really, really works. Like, so there are so many ways moms can actually improve their life while pumping or breastfeeding, improve their situation. Even think at the moment, imagine life in 6 months where we are not in lockdown anymore, where everything is safe again. What's gonna life look like? What are you gonna do as an activity? And while you're doing that, you're smiling already while you think about it, instead of focusing on negative things. And that helps a lot. And everybody can do that. Maybe you know, pumping moms, breastfeeding moms, but also moms of a 7-year-old like me. I do that while going to bed or while waking up in the morning. It doesn't take much time, but that's me time, and it's very useful and very well used me time.
Creative visualization, even if you have just 5-10 minutes or during pumping, is a great strategy. You don't have to, you know, go to extremes. But you know, being able to focus your thoughts on the, you know, on the brighter side of things. But also it's like muscle buildup. It just needs practice.
The first time is not going to be great.
Right. Yeah. It won't. It may sound even, you know, it's kind of like that laughter yoga thing. You know, you're like, this is fake. It sounds fake. But, you know, your brain, like I said, it hasn't changed much since your ancestors. So it's very easy for it to believe your inner chatter. That's why it's very important to just you know, refocus basically and ground ourselves. It's and one thing you said about the planner, but also how you were trying to, you know, make time for yourself. Now I know there's a lot of parents out there, sometimes multiple kids, and I have 2 boys as well. It's just, I know how it is to juggle a lot of things at the same time. But the thing is, nobody knows what's going on in your head or in your brain, in your heart, more than you do. So it's up to us to identify our needs and to carve these spaces. Even if it's a 10-minute time like that, you can
even
make
2 minutes
in that entire given, you know, 24 hours. It's gonna do wonders. It's gonna help a lot. It's just like you feel it in your body. If you're grinding your teeth, if you have like tense facial muscles, your neck, you don't even feel it. Your jaw really tight. It's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable path to be on. And the thing is, you can do all the right things during the day for your child, but your child may still look like he's acting out. Why? Because he can't pinpoint what's going on, but in his emotional habitat, there is some kind of, you know, sticky feeling that he can't put his finger on, but it's coming from mom or dad, you know? So that's, again, the mirror neurons at play. So unless you start to carve out that space to identify and meet your needs consciously on your own without waiting for the other person, even if it's your significant other you've been with, I don't know, your entire life, they're not able to read your mind. They can do some good guesses, but they're not able to read your mind. And your needs change, especially during a rough time like this. All our needs have changed. So maybe for you, for somebody to just empty the dishwasher is the most romantic gesture of all times now, suddenly, you know, whereas it was a romantic, you know, candlelit dinner before. You know what I mean? It's just changing. So it's up to you to ask for that. And, you know, nonviolent communication skills are also a big part of both gentle parenting, but also, you know, for relationship issues coming up, which is perfectly, we expect that kind of thing,
Yes.
things bubbling up in your relationship as well. But that's, that's a whole other topic.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say that when the kids feel that you are off balance, or when their systems are also feeling the sense of.
So our life shuts for some reason all of a sudden, but so we are nearly finished anyway, but still, let's finish it nicely. Aslıhan, are you there? Yeah, I'm there. Okay, I'm back, Aslıhan. Are you there? So yeah, our English live is, yes, Aslıhan, I did share in my story. Our English life is nearly coming to an end. Our talk was about rough, gentle parenting during rough times. So, for the ones who asked, I am sharing this video, the recording of the video in my story. So you
or watch the beginning for the ones who missed the beginning. We will probably make a video like that next week in Turkish as well, maybe.
And we were having such a flowing,
yes.
heated.
I didn't know it was cutting off after an hour.
Yeah. It happens. That's totally fine. So I was just talking about how the kids can actually feel, mirror how we are carrying ourselves. So instead of focusing on their behavior as the problem, we may think about, first of all, self-regulate. And our other mantra is that we need to pick our battles. This is not the time to have to be a perfectionist. It's actually not, it doesn't really go well with any parenting scenario to start with. And there's also, positive discipline. It's a good field to explore. I can share some resources. Maybe you can share them in your story, or maybe in the video later.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, just like how we can self-regulate, how can we model and help our kids self-regulate? Because unless we can deactivate their stress button, it's not able to make them do or help them do the right stuff.
Yeah.
So
to summarize what I said, write down your needs in a planner. Write down your kids' needs, anybody in the family. Try to see how you can actually give a solution to those needs. So the example I was giving is, if the weather is really bad or you cannot go out at all, you don't have a garden, how can you let your kids get rid of their energy and jump around? So let them jump on the couch or play Just Dance in front of a screen or anything. Let them move. Do put your needs as a priority, because as you were saying, if you're not doing it, you don't have patience and you can't look after the others as well. Also, what I find in a good idea is once a week, have a little family meeting to see what worked and what didn't work. So for example, in our case, we said at first, no Just Dance during the school in the morning. We're doing school from 10 to 2 with lots of breaks. But now I said, okay, Just Dance is fine for during a break. And it works well. Or like we've said, okay, now we're going to have a longer break, like a 20-minute break, for example. We go downstairs, he plays with the dog downstairs, and we come up again. Works much better. And also go with the flow. So also for the moms who are homeschooling, don't try to be a teacher, because you never be a teacher if you're not one. You don't become a teacher like that. But instead, have like a rough idea of what you're going to teach that day, but also go with the flow. Like sometimes I see that, okay, I planned maths, but Jazz is like totally in a mood for like reading instead or doing English. Then we're doing that.
Yes.
And if I have to make it shorter, I'm going to make it shorter now. I'm not going to do 10 to 2,
Right.
to 2. I'm going to do 10 to 1.
Right. You're going to have, when I mean, you know, when I was talking about lowering your expectations, I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's actually about adapting. Okay. So right now it's not realistic to do this and that and that. And, you know, we have a limited number of, you know, hands basically and tools. So right now it's, like I said, self-regulate all you can, and mirror your child's emotions.
Yeah.
If they're feeling like, if they look like they're acting out, or if they suddenly started bedwetting, you know, or if they started having, I don't know, appetite issues or sleep, the big one. That means that's a sign, that's a symptom of something going on. Either they're picking up something from you or from the, you know, the home habitat, emotional habitat, or they're just, you know, they're feeling threatened. It's one of those modes, really. So, but they can't do it on their own. They need a hand from you to.
But don't feel guilty of being the source of stress for your child neither. It's normal that you're stressed right now. Don't feel guilty about that.
No, it's more about feeling empowered, I think. Because I think that's a great point that you made, is sometimes that happened in my first pregnancy. I was stressing over not stressing.
Yeah.
So now that I've said, oh, you know, your child has these mirror neurons, they're able to mirror right back at you how you carry yourself. It's actually not more than a source of stress. I see that as a source of empowerment, because you're not trying to fix the child. You're not trying to fix the behavior, because it's, and admit it, it's not something we can control either.
But also once you understand where the problem comes from, you can fix it. Otherwise you can't.
Right. So this is the part we can control. Like I said, how do you boost resilience? You make peace with your own feelings. You make peace with your child's sticky feelings, maybe. And then you make peace with the parts of your life that you can control, and focus on stuff you can. You can definitely focus on what comes out of your mouth, right? Yeah. I mean, most of the time. And what do you do? How do you carry yourself? If to carry yourself more peacefully, you need to carve out a time and space for yourself, you are gonna have to do it. I mean, nobody is gonna carve that space for you. And feelings of guilt, that tells me another thing, that there is a story that you know, some inner work that needs to be done, because that's kind of the coding that you grew up with. Why do you feel guilty when you are setting this boundary around your needs?
And when we come to that, like at the moment, it's the perfect time to actually listen to podcasts, audiobooks about these topics, or like mindvalley.com has great courses, free courses on how, like on self-development like that. Actually, being in lockdown like that is a great opportunity, I think, to learn new skills. To put your headphones on. You can still like rock your baby or nurse your baby while you're doing that. Or for breastfeeding moms who ask like, do I have to be mindful every single time I breastfeed? Of course not. You're not, you're not perfect. Sometimes, you breastfeed 8 times a day, 10 times a day. You know, maybe 2-3 times you can watch something while doing so, or listen to an audiobook while doing so. It is okay. You're still a good mom, you know?
Yeah.
And also maybe to help like breastfeeding moms who will have some questions about that. Lots of baby carrying right now might be a baby carer might be your best friend right now in the house. Carrying a baby, studies show that it helps the baby a lot in so many ways. They cry less than other babies. They hear your heartbeat, they have your smell. It's easier to breastfeed, and you have both hands free. So if you have another child, you can take care of that other child, but you can also brush your teeth, eat, do all other stuff.
All kinds of ways. I mean, from an attachment perspective, it's known to enhance the newborns, the infants, the toddlers, touch basically enhances your attachment. So it's a very healthy way to boost that while also carving that space so that you have your hands free. If you use one of those slings for maybe the newborn and an ergonomic carrier afterward. Do not carry the baby face front. Make sure, the face is, the baby is facing the mom. Or later on, you can carry them on your back. It's a great tool. I highly recommend that. Touch in general, even with growing babies, children, any age, even teenagers. It's just, you'll be amazed at how suddenly your system is relaxed.
I love baby carrying.
Right, and I did too. I used to carry my baby when I was teaching too. It's just And this hug, in EMDR sometimes, the tapping, they do that with the kids. I saw that the other day. It's definitely, it does wonders. Again, it all boils down to, when we're talking about coping strategies, it's going to be different for everyone. Some people like cooking, some like, hands-on sensory painting, sticky stuff. Some people just like reading and more, quiet.
Even the ones who like to do sport and who think they can't do sport right now, you can. If you have a baby, put your baby in the carrier and do your sport with it. There is a dad that, like a family I went to, I helped with breastfeeding counseling. The dad sent me a video the other day carrying the dog and the baby on his back and doing squats. So everything's possible.
Whatever works. But see, there is no cookie cutter answer that's gonna fit everybody.
Exactly. Everybody's different.
Yeah, it's
writing everybody's needs
enough to find yours basically and adapt. Definitely. It's be able to stretch and adapt. It's known to be a bad thing traditionally. It's actually at the core of resilience is to be able to adapt, because the more rigid you are, and perfectionism comes with that, they're hand in hand. The more rigid you are, the easier it is to just strike you and to break, right? Even with buildings, we want them to be more. You have to be able to stretch, more flexible. So that's, I think, at the core of coping and resilience, and being okay with our child's, harder feelings, because they're still gonna, no matter what, they're your little ones. They're gonna love you like crazy, and it's okay to have these, moments of solitude for everybody. Your child needs that time too.
Definitely. And gentle parenting is not about being gentle all the time. It's about also making mistakes, but being okay with making mistakes, and also apologizing. So even if you lost it, like me 2 days ago, and shouted and it turned into like a big battle, it's okay to say sorry and to change your ways. And there is also neuroplasticity also works in that way, isn't it? By like repairing. You can repair things.
I think intent is really important. Why you say things and what you do, and the intent to repair and reconnect. We can, all of us, we can disconnect at certain times in a relationship, but the intent to reconnect is really important, I think, unless it's a recurring pattern, unless it's a recurring thing, if you feel snappy all the time and reactive and shout and, then, that definitely needs to, you need some, for a person that feels like that all the time or most of the time, I think this is, you need to kind of seek some professional support in that front. But that said, you disconnect is perfectly normal as long as you have the intent to reconnect and that it's not a recurring pattern of reactivity. Let's see, in relationship to children. Somebody just asked about co-sleeping. Let me just a very, very short comment.
Very short, because it's not the topic right now. We have to finish.
I'm just gonna say that during this time of unpredictability, and we talked about this earlier in our conversation, children, even non-co-sleeping children, may be a little bit clingy, so to speak, and want to be close to their parents and want to co-sleep, even though they weren't sleeping with you earlier. This could happen, and that's in such an exceptional scenario, that's okay. As long as you meet their needs during the day. This probably would fade out, but it's better for a specialist to see you and the child, of course. But in general, attachment is built on the premise and on about 80 years of research, experimental research, neuroscience, and all of that basically proves to us that a strong and healthy attachment eventually leads to independent and emotionally resilient individuals in adult life. So when you're meeting your newborns, your child's, your preschooler needs of safety, when they're showing signs of that need, the more you meet that, the probably the closer they are going to be to feeling independent and, you know, so and free later on. But if you're not meeting those needs, then they're going to be more clingy, and this can actually turn into a pattern. So does that make sense? So attachment is all about eventually, you know, having these strong, resilient, and independent individuals later.
And if we want to talk about night, it's also very normal for kids to wake up more often at night and maybe come in the parents' room when you're not co-sleeping at stressful times. It's very normal, and it's not going to turn into a bad habit. You can listen to your child's needs at that point and say, okay, like we too, sometimes in the middle of the night, at this point, we can't sleep because our mind is racing. Their mind may be racing as well at night. So it's only normal that they wake up and need you at that time. I would like to finish by saying that, well, as a leader and founder of Attachment Parenting Turkey, you also help parents online. You do a lot of online counseling with parents all around the world. So if parents feel they need more support, more help on a certain topic, or on just how to handle these tough times right now, they can get in contact with you through your own website. In my case as well, I still do online counseling for breastfeeding. I do home visits as well if they're not too far from my home right now. So for any stage of breastfeeding, if it's like starting breastfeeding, it's like you're pregnant and you'd like to succeed at breastfeeding, or if you have a toddler who's constantly on the breast and you were thinking of weaning, but now because of Corona, you think you can't, you can reduce the feedings. Your child will still have protection against illness, even if you reduce the feedings, because nature is well done. And if that's done in a gentle way, step by step, your body knows that and puts more protection. So I don't have my English book here. I have a Turkish one, but my English book has been published on Amazon a few days ago. Yay. The paperback and the ebook now. So for the moms, English-speaking moms in Turkey, they can get the ebook because Amazon doesn't deliver to Turkey right now. For all the rest of the world, you should be able to get it from your Amazon store, except Australia. Australia, they can't get it right now, but they can get the ebook. So I think my book can be super useful for the moms who feel overwhelmed with a toddler or a preschooler who wants to nurse all the time at the moment. It's okay to say, I don't want to don't want to nurse that often right now. It is totally okay. You're not a bad mom. You have to listen to your needs, like we said. Self-compassion. If you feel that you really need to nurse less, you can do it. And the tools are in my book. So my book is called Bye Bye Mommy's Milk in English. I will put the link in the comments as well. There will be a German version of the book, Nida is asking, but not yet. It's being translated at the moment. At the moment, there is a Turkish version and English version. But that book is full of tools on how to nurse less, get your baby to nurse less, your child to nurse less. It's a child's book, picture book that you can read together. You can even paste your own pictures. So it helps your child to identify with the hero of the story. Is myself.
So that's also a gentle weaning guide, right?
It's a gentle weaning guide, but what I mean by weaning, because sometimes moms say, I do not want to wean right now. What they need actually at that point is to increase the frequency. And the book explains exactly how to do this. And then The other part, the second part, is the mom guide. So there it tells you exactly how to do this. It's a guide. Again, use it the way you want to use it. So you've got that part. And then if you need more help or support, but usually the book is enough, you can contact me for online counseling.
So happymomandbaby.com is your website, and people can reach me through my Instagram account, Dr. Onaran, or dronaran.com. I just added that in the comments up there. But I think that sums it up. It's just everybody who listens to this later on or who are with us today, just a pat on the back. Be good to yourselves. Otherwise, there's really no way you can keep this on a sustainable path. And your kids need you to have your head above the water. It's tough, but it's just like the weather. It's gonna pass eventually. Just knowing that this is not permanent. It's impermanent. I think is a big thing to remember, to keep in mind as well. Thanks so much for having me. Now we can do a proper bye-bye, I think.
Yes, without it cutting off like that. Thank you very much for being my guests. It was, as usually, very informative. And thank you. Maybe we'll do a Turkish one.
Yeah.
And have a nice evening. Let everybody write their needs tonight to start the day tomorrow, like with our heads above the water.
Right. Yeah. Breathe. Be good to yourself. That's and carve your own spaces.
And even if it's 2 minutes a day, it's possible.
Exactly. Pat on the back. Bye-bye.
Bye.